As we walk out the journey of life, we each begin to thirst for something more. We want more than just life the way we know it. It's a thirst for more peace, more fulfillment, more purpose. That was God's plan all along. Since the ancient times, He has made promises that He will quench that thirst. And the promises He made long ago are the same promises He has made for us today.
All right. Welcome, Discover Church. How are you guys doing this morning? It is so good to have you guys here. We are excited to continue on. We're on our, it's really our fifth week of the 4-Cup series, but we're talking about the third cup today. The first 2 weeks, we talked about a couple different things, and I'm excited. Life is going well, and I don't know about you guys. I walk in here today, I can't, it's hard to be excited as a Cowboys fan, because I don't want to hear it. It's hard to be excited, but you know what? On the plus side, at least we're not the Eagles. I mean, they might be winning, but you got to be an Eagles fan. Sorry. It's hard to get excited for my Cowboys, so I'm excited for my boys. They played football yesterday, and they killed it. Linus's team won 42-0. What's up? Okay, now he's been a part of teams that have gotten beaten 42-0 before, and it doesn't feel good. And so you get to like the fourth quarter, and you're like, all right, guys, just let up a little bit. I'm like, come on, guys, we don't need to make them feel any worse. We don't make it, but you know what? Sometimes you're gonna win by 42-0. It was great. I got to watch my boys play really, really well. I got to watch Linus win the Sportsmanship Award, and that's awarded to you from the other team. It means that the other coach saw Linus trying to cheer up these other kids that were going through a hard day. And as a dad, I went, yeah, that my boy, he kicked butt on the football field, but he also was walking in the presence of Jesus and saying, hey, I'm gonna show love to somebody who's going through a hard day. And so it was a fun, exciting day for me watching the football games yesterday. The football, I loved football season with my boys. It's fun. It is tiring because we're up at like 6:30 in the morning and we're at the field till about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I don't know if you guys know this. Florida's hot, and so it just is what it is. But last year we just sort of showed up and like dealt with it. This year, I went and bought like a nice tent and nice chairs, and I'm like, I ain't doing it that way anymore. And so like we actually bring out a bunch of stuff and make it comfortable, and it makes it better. But I'm excited today as we continue on our series on the 4 cups. And to give you guys an understanding, the first week we talked about how God has promises for us. If you haven't watched any of these series, or if you've missed certain weeks of this series, you can go back on our website at mydiscoverchurch.com, and we have an archive of all of this series and other ones before it, and we post those every Sunday afternoon, and we'd love for you to be able to catch up and follow along. But the first week we talked about how God has promises for us. He wrote promises in His Word for us, and now He wrote them. He started. There's tons and tons of promises, but they're really what we call 4 core promises, and that's what the 4 cups is about. And those 4 promises were given to us all the way back whenever He gave them in Exodus chapter 6. He gave them to the Israelites when they were wanting to leave slavery in Egypt. And all the promises that the Bible has for us are rooted in these 4 promises. That without these 4 promises, the rest of the promises don't hold up. You need these 4 promises to be able to make the other promises happen. Isn't it great to know we have a God that understands that, hey, if I want to give you all these promises, I need to give you some cornerstones to make them work. And our God did that. We studied that the very first week. The next week we talked about Passover and how the Passover was really the Last Supper that Jesus went through, when they were all on one side of the table and they're, having their Passover, the Last Supper, and how the Passover is something that started 1,500 years before that, right after Exodus chapter 6, whenever the idea of God saving us and giving us these different promises in Exodus chapter 6, and and we see all the way through that in Exodus chapter 6, the verses that they read, that God gave them, the promises, are the same verses that are read all the way to this day in Jewish households during Passover. And these are the verses that would have been read the night of the Last Supper with Jesus. These are the four, and the idea being that instead of one cup of communion, there's 4 cups. Each cup represents a different one of the promises. The Jewish people call these promises the 4 I wills. And we see it in chapter 6, verse 6 and 7. It says, therefore say to the Israelites, I am the Lord. And the first one, I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. We talked about that the first week. That's the cup of sanctification, or if I want to make it less churchy, the cup of salvation. Hey, I will bring you out from, I will save you. I'm going to save you. I'm going to help you to know God. And then we go to the second week, which is what we talked about last week, and it says, I will free you from being slaves to them. I will free you from being slaves to them. And you go, well, that seems like the same thing. Like, I will stop you from being a slave, and then I will free you from being a slave. But we learned last week what? That second cup, which is the cup of deliverance, or, like, once again, the way I like to put it, the cup of freedom. What we say at Discover Church is that we want you to know God, to find freedom. We want you to discover what your purpose is, and we want you to make a difference in the world. And so week 1, the cup 1 is to know God. Week 2, last week, was to find freedom. And we talked about last Sunday how we have all these, we came out of sin, and God cleaned us up instantly. When we accept him in our heart, when we ask him in our lives, he completely, white as snow, right? We are cleaned up completely. But the thing is that we are still coming out of who we used to be. And for so many of us, we get stuck on this second cup because we are stuck on the sin that we grew up in. We're stuck on the sin that we used to live in, and we live in this guilt because of what we used to be. The better way to put it is God took them out of Egypt, but he had to teach them how to take the Egypt out of them. They were still living and operating as slaves, and God says, not only am I going to make you not a slave, but I'm going to take the slavery out of you. You still operate and act like you were a slave, and for some of us, we still operate and act like we are stuck in the sin that he already redeemed us from, that he already saved us from. And that was the week 2, last week, and it really the idea of working out your salvation. The first step is instant. Knowing God, it's instant. He gives it to you. It's a free gift. The second step is a process. The process of finding freedom of who you used to be. And then the verse goes on, and what does it say? It says, I will redeem you with 2 things. He says, I'm going to redeem you with an outstretched arm with mighty acts of judgment. I'm going to talk about those today. And this, for us, we call the cup of redemption, or what I like to call it, the cup of restoration, where he takes something that was built for one thing, was converted to something it shouldn't have been, and now it's being taken back to what it was supposed to be. And then finally, next week, we're going to talk about the cup of praise, or the cup of fulfillment. The verse goes on, it says, I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am your Lord. So today's cup, the cup of redemption. And we see that what this is in Exodus chapter 6, verse 6. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. Now, redeem is a funny word right here, because we go, okay, what does it mean? I mean, most of us, the only time we ever think of redeem, we see it at the bottom of a coupon. And for those of you that are under the age of 30, coupons were these pieces of paper that we used to cut out of newspaper. And a newspaper was a piece of paper, lots of pieces of paper that would come to your house. I'm just explaining it to you guys who've never seen. I grew up with a paper route. And some of you guys are like, what's a newspaper? You mean a website? No, I mean they used to print it every week. We also used to not have maps online. Anybody else? Atlas? What's up? I can read an atlas like anybody. We redeem, the word redeem is something that we don't understand a lot. And redeem means to buy back something. To buy it back. Or better yet, to put you back to what you were supposed to do, to get you doing what you were created to do, is the way that God is using the word redeem right here. He was talking to the Israelites, and he's promising you guys too. He's not just interested in saving you. So many of us think that, I got saved, I've made it, that's it. And here's the deal. If you're saved, awesome, you're going to heaven. I can't wait. We're in a party. It's going to be a good time. But Why would you leave other promises and great things that God offers you on the table? But so many of us do. We go, well, I've got saved. That's enough for me. And God's like, I got so much more. I got so much better to offer you today. I got something that's so much better. And God is not only interested in saving you and not just interested in just delivering you, but he has a plan for you. A plan not just to save you, but to redeem you. The Webster's Dictionary, when you look at redeem, it means a couple different things. And there's some really cool thoughts that come from this. When you look at it, it means to buy back or to repurchase. And you see what that means whenever we look at the Bible when it says that he paid the price for your sin. That he bought you back with his blood. That he was willing and able and wanted to take you back with his blood. Another version that when you read about it, it says that, or in Webster's Dictionary, the way they define it is they call it to change for the better or to reform. To reform, just to redeem. Another one is to repair or restore. That's why I call it the cup of restoration. It's because God is looking at you going, I want to restore you. Make you the way you were supposed to be. So what is redemption? What is it? It's really simple. The easy way to put it is that redemption is just doing what you were supposed to be doing. It's what you were created to do. For the Israelites, it wasn't making bricks for Pharaoh. That wasn't what they were created to do. That's just what they were forced to do. And some of you guys are living a life where you're doing things that you weren't created to do because you feel like you've been forced to do. And God says, hey, I'm here to restore you. I'm here to buy you back and to give you freedom from those things that the world says you have to do. And start doing the things I created you to do. God's plan for them wasn't for them to make bricks. It was for them to find a productive, and not just a productive, to find a fulfilled life. A life that was completely fulfilled the way that he intended it to be. What's really interesting to me is that to see the redemptive power of God, the redemption that God offers us, we can look back and see how he redeemed the nation of Israel, historically speaking. A nation that has struggled and is still struggling. But God took them from the mud pits as slaves to some of the most influential and successful people in the history of our planet. I mean, they're so successful that there are like conspiracy theories for them. Like, oh, they run the World Bank and everybody, like they pick every leader. Like there's conspiracy theories. Why? Because they're so incredibly successful that God has said, hey, I have something better for you than being a slave. Some of the greatest minds in history. To date, there have been 193 Nobel Prizes awarded, and 23% of them have been awarded to Jewish people. That means that 23% of the Nobel Prizes have been awarded to a population of 0.2% of the world. That's a jaw-dropping number. That's crazy. I would say that God redeemed them. And how did he do it? We see it right there in the verse when it says, I'm going to redeem you what? With an outstretched arm and a mighty acts of judgment. Outstretched arms and mighty acts of judgment. And see, what he's saying right here is that the promise that he gave to them, he still gives to us. He reiterated that promise the night before he died. And that these promises were not just for them, but they are for now. They are the I wills that God promises all of us. And what he is saying is that the redemptive power that he offered to the Israelites as they sat as slaves in Egypt is offered to you here at Discover Church this morning. The thing is that he has a potential that you're just not living up to. None of us are. And the fact is that most of us are probably not doing what we were called or created to do. And so today I want to help you learn how to go on the journey of redemption and to really to drink from this third cup of promise that we're talking through. The whole purpose of salvation and deliverance, cup 1 and cup 2, is that God wants you to return back to your original purpose. Cup 3 is my favorite because there's nothing as cool. I want to see you saved. Like, that's the ultimate high. That's incredible. I can't wait. I want to see. I want heaven crowded. I want every one of your friends and neighbors and everybody you go to school with and you go to work with and everybody you've ever met and that guy who annoyed you on I-4 yesterday, I want them all in heaven. I want them all there. But there's nothing quite as cool as seeing somebody get saved. They get cleaned up immediately. Then they walk through the process of finding the freedom that God has. And all of a sudden, they've turned into what God created them to be. And then you get to step 3 where they start to find fulfillment. And fulfillment is when you find, it doesn't mean that life is good all the time. I look at Sarah and I, our life over the last 5 years where we've walked through cancer twice and multiple issues that have been huge, gigantic issues in our life. But I look at our life and I go, we're still fulfilled. Because it's not that my life gets easier, it's that all of a sudden I am doing what I was created to do. I always tell the story, like I'm a car guy, I love cars. And I remember watching this video of this guy who bought a Paganda, and it's this incredible sports car. It's more than just like a sports car, but it's like they call them hypercars. These cars, they make 3 a year. And this car is like a $3 million car. It's one of the fastest. It's just a feat of engineering that nobody's ever. It's just it's art, but it's art that drives really fast and scares you. Like, it's awesome. And this guy in Dubai bought one of the 6 of these cars that were built, and he had it craned to the 70th floor penthouse apartment and mounted on its side as a divider in his room. I was really angry. And can I tell you, it's not what it was made to do. It's not what it was built for. Can it be a room divider? Yeah. But it's not what it was made to do. And for some of us, or most of us, what we're doing we can do, but it's not what you were created for. You were created for something more, and God says, hey, I have something that I want to offer you that is fulfillment. Finding fulfillment where you are, so many people in the world are like, I'm looking for something. I'm looking for what will make me happy. I'm looking for something like purpose. And God says, I have it for you. I created you with it. He created you with a specific design, with a destiny. He wants you to return back to your ultimate purpose. So the question really is, why do so few people actually drink from the third cup? And the answer, I think, is found in the promise itself when it says, I will redeem you with outstretched arm and mighty acts of judgment. And the first one is this, is that we feel inferior. That there's an inferiority complex going on for us. I think that most people in this world have an inferior view, an incorrect view of yourself. And it comes from our past, our problems, the things we used to do, the things that we struggled with, make us feel inferior. And it makes us feel like we're not worth it, like we're not good enough. We have this history, and we feel like, well, how could I ever find fulfillment if I'm so bad? People, you show up at church, and you're like, and I'll watch it. I can watch it up here as I'm leading worship. And I'll watch as some of you guys walk in, and you feel God move on your heart. And I watch you pull your hands out of your pocket, and you want to worship. And then you remember what you did yesterday. And your hands just go right back in. You stand there. And God's sitting here going, you don't need to feel inferior because of who you used to be. You need to let me help you find fulfillment with what I made you to be. The way I created you. We need to learn how to let God heal our pain, to heal our scars from yesterday. That was cup 2 last week, finding freedom. Let him heal the pain, the scars, the problems that we had in the past. And so many of us try to live out our purpose without ever settling our yesterdays, and you'll always struggle with that. If God gave you a purpose, something to do, and some of you guys, he has given, you have something in your heart. Some of you guys are walking in this place, and in your heart, your soul is burning for the homeless people you see. Some of you walk in, and your soul is just aching to see the kids in this nation find true examples of Christianity and God and love. Some of you guys walk in this place and you go, I just want to see people that are hurting find peace. God has given you something inside of you, and you feel like you can't do it. And some of you even try to do it, but you're still struggling with your own history and your own past, and it keeps failing. And it's because you never get to focus on the part that God wants to fulfill because you keep looking back on who you used to be. You're walking in the guilt of who you used to be, and God's like, I forgot about that. I forgave you for that. Here's what God is ready to do. He is ready to, with an outstretched arm, with mighty acts of judgment. Why does it say outstretched arm? I love that. When it says with an outstretched arm. I believe it's this. It's because God understands that he has to reach down. What does it say in Psalms? The psalmist said, he reached down into the miry pit, and he pulled me up and set my feet upon a rock. That we're stuck in the mire, in the clay, in the dirt of our yesterdays. And he says, with an outstretched arm, I will reach in and I will pull you out. Look what it says, another verse in Psalms 18. It says, you stoop down. Why? To make me great. Not because I'm great, but because you're great. You want to not just stoop down to save me. It's not just about salvation. He wants to stoop down for salvation, but he also wants to stoop down so that you can be great. Amen. He created you to do great things. To do incredible things. He created you for that. I love this concept, the idea of him reaching down into this pit to pull us up. He reaches in the pit. See, God looks at you guys, and it's something that you'll hear me say. If you're around here for a while, you'll hear me say that I believe that you are a 10 at something, every one of you. Some of you guys walk in here and you feel like you are worthless. You have no self-esteem. You feel like you are just inferior. And you feel like you can't do anything. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. It is a lie, and it is a lie from the pit of hell. You are not inferior. God created you on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose, and you are better equipped to reach out and change the world than anybody else in the world for something. He made you for something. He made you on purpose. He didn't make a mistake. God sees greatness in you. I see it. It drives me crazy when me and Sarah will sit at home and we'll talk about you guys. Not like gossip, not like we're like, can you believe what she was wearing today? We don't say that. And if you're saying that, you should stop and go back and relearn cup number 2. But me and Sarah sit and we talk about you guys. We've had conversations about some of you that are here today this week. Saying, I see so much awesome. I see so much greatness in them. God has their hand. If they could just find fulfillment, God wants to use them. I see it in you. And God does too. He sees it because he put it there. He sees greatness that you don't see in yourself, that you don't understand. I can look back on my life and see moments when I did not feel good enough or great enough. I faked it. I would act like I was, but I felt like I was worthless. And the right people spoke the right things into my life, and and said, Johnny, there's something more that God has for you. Sometimes it takes somebody else speaking it, and so I'm speaking it to you right now. You have greatness in you. It's not because you are great yourself. It's because greater is he that is in you, right? If God's in there, his greatness is in there. It takes sometimes other people to see the potential. And we so often we limit ourselves, and we're so hard on ourselves, and we forget to see ourselves. We're good at seeing other people, especially family or somebody we love. We're good at seeing them the way that God sees them, but for some of you guys, you need to learn how to see yourself the way that God sees you. This is what it says in Ephesians chapter 2. It says, for we, you guys, are God's masterpieces. He created you new in Jesus so that you can do good things that he planned for you all along. What this is saying, and I want you to understand what this is saying, God didn't create you and then give you a purpose. It was the reverse of that. God went, I'm going to create somebody with this purpose, in this gifting, in this ability. And then he made you based on those requirements. How cool is that? That he built you for that. But we always struggle with ourselves to do that. He didn't create you to give you a purpose. He created a purpose and then he created you. The second thing that I think that hurts us a lot of times, so obviously we feel inferior, but I think a lot of times we feel the enemy brings around diversions in our lives to block us. He brings a diversion into our heart. Here's the thing, I want you to understand that, and the enemy can't touch you. If you have asked Jesus in your heart, you are saved. You're signed, sealed, delivered. You're his. You're good. He can't touch you, but what the enemy can do is he can mess with your path. That's the way I look at the cancer stuff that we walked through as a family. That the enemy, and Sarah talked about it, the second it happened, we're like, this is the enemy trying to put a ditch in our path to not let us get over there. He has something great for us over there, God does, and the enemy is trying to stop us from getting there. And so many times we let the diversions end us, and we let it circle us back into cup number 2, feeling bad about ourselves, like, oh, I couldn't even do that right. Couldn't even get that step right. Here's the deal. I want you guys to understand something, is that God has a plan for you, a path for you. But the Bible also says that he will use all things together for good to those that love God. What's that mean? It means that I don't care what diversion happened in your life or what detour you had to make, he will use it. Not just he'll deal with it, he'll use that for his good. It's like this. If I looked at you and said, hey, you got to drive to Tampa, but you got to go by way of Orlando. Can you do it? Well, yeah, you can. It just takes an extra 3 hours. If you have to drive through Disney, it's like 7 hours. Your path might not always go the way that you want it to go. It might not always be the direct path. But here's the cool thing is that all of a sudden God goes, oh wait, you're in Orlando? I got something for you to do while you're there. And he starts using your path. And all of a sudden the enemy starts digging ditches and trying to divert you to different things. And God goes, all right, as long as you're with me, I'm going to use you in the middle of the diversion. I'm going to use you to make a difference in the world. I'm not going to let the diversions hinder who you are. Some of us, we live in those diversions. We live in who we used to be. There's the story of like the guy who he walked into a pet shop and he sees a parrot. And the parrot goes, hey. And he's like, what, me? And the parrot's like, yeah, come over here. So the guy walks over to the parrot. And the parrot goes, you are the ugliest man I've ever seen in my life. He goes, are you talking? Yes, you are so ugly. And the man's offended. Oh, and he goes over to the shop owner and he goes, do you hear what your parrot just said to me? Your parrot just told me I was the ugliest man he's ever seen in his life. And the owner walks over there and just slaps the beak, pulls out a feather and says, you don't talk to our customers that way. We're never going to sell it. You can't do that. And the man leaves. And about a month later, he said, I'm going to go back to the pet shop. And he goes back to the pet shop. He walks in. The parrot goes, hey, you. And he goes, well, you talking to me? He goes, yeah. Come over here. The man walks over and he goes, what? And he goes, you know what? The enemy does that to us. The enemy will look at us and go, keep your hands in your pocket during worship today. You know what you did. You can't overcome this diversion, so just deal with it. And when we allow the enemy to be the louder voice in our lives, all of a sudden, we are no longer walking into the third cup that God has for us, the cup of fulfillment that he offers to us. Instead, we're circling all the way back to cup number 2, and we're struggling with finding freedom again. But you are God's masterpiece. The devil has his own plan for your life, but he is not the one who gets to dictate what your life does and where it goes. Satan will put so many things in your way, whether it's career or money, marriage problems, whatever it is. There's so many different things. Tragedy comes in our lives, and all of a sudden it becomes this ditch that stops us from getting to the place that he wants us to be. Anything, he'll put anything there to keep you from focusing on God's plan for your life. He wants you to stay focused on yourself. He wants you to stay focused on your issues. He wants you to stay on cup number 2. Struggling to find freedom from who you used to be. 1 Thessalonians says like this, we wanted very much to come to you, and I, Paul, tried again and again, but Satan prevented us. The word for prevented is egkopto. I'm going to act like I just said that right. It's in Greek, egkopto, and it literally means to cut a ditch in the road. Prevented. What Paul said is, the enemy cut a ditch in the road. You see those movies about like the giant earthquakes, and you see they drive and they stop at the last minute, and there's a giant crack that goes down in the abyss because the tectonic plates shifted. And some of you guys, your walk with Christ in your life feels like you are standing at the edge of an abyss that you did not put there. And the enemy said, now try and get over there. And God says, all right, take a different path. I'm still going to use it. And so we understand that God says, hey, with an outstretched arm, but then he says something that's really different. With mighty acts of judgment. With mighty acts of judgment. And you go, what's that mean? Like, where does that come from? And the mighty acts of judgment that he's talking about there isn't against you. Because I want you to understand something. When he gets to the third I will, you've already been saved, so you already know God. You've already found freedom. You are no longer living the past. Now you are trying to find fulfillment. And so when he says, I'm going to have mighty acts of judgment, it's not against you. You've already gotten forgiven for those things. You don't need mighty acts of judgment. Those mighty acts of judgment are against those that are going to come against you. It is against the enemy to try and take you out. When he says, hey, I'm going to bring the devil is trying to keep God's people away from what God created them to do, and he has mighty acts of judgment against them. How many times have we watched evil people in this world try to do evil things, and God says, nope, I'm going to use that for my good. I'm going to use that for my good. I watched last Sunday, after church, they had the Charlie Kirk thing, and whether you loved him or hate him, I don't care. Here's the deal. I sat there and I watched 100 million people listen to people singing worship. I watched Elon Musk sit through a worship service, yo. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 100 million people around this planet heard the love of Jesus proclaimed over and over and over again. Just because the enemy means to hurt you does not mean that God doesn't have a plan to use it. He, with a mighty arm, he will reach down and pull you up. And with mighty acts of judgment, he will rain down fire on the enemy as long as we are walking in his presence. His goals are bigger than what yours are. Romans 8:28, we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those that love him, right? You might think that you've gone too far, but God says, no, I've got it. I love this in the Message version of the Bible, Romans 11:29. God's gifts and God's call are all under full warranty. Isn't that awesome? They're never canceled. They're never rescinded. The cup of redemption. So how do we drink from this cup? First of all, I love how what it says, that his gifts are never rescinded. I want you guys all to know something real quick. You guys all have a spiritual gift. You do. This is what it says in Romans 12:6. And I'm going to explain this to you so you can understand what it means. It says we have different gifts, right? According to the grace God has given us. We all have different gifts according to the grace God has given us. The word grace right there, I love this. The word grace right there, it was the word charis. It was the word charis. And what it meant, and that's where we get the word, or charis. It's where we get the word charismatic from. Charisma. You ever seen somebody that can just walk in, they can just do what they do, and it seems to just flow? It's just easy. I have a harder time talking individually with people than I do on a stage. It's just not as easy for me. This is where God said, hey, I have grace for you to do this. A charisma. Not that I made, that he made. But you guys didn't know that Romans talked about having riz. All the young people got it. The old people are like, what? We all have a gift according to the riz that God gave us. What it is it's a divine embellishment that God says, I'm going to make you good. I'm going to give you a grace to do this. I'm going to give you the ability to do this better than anybody else, that you were created for it. And I believe that God has instructions, and they're imprinted in the gifts that he gave you, every one of you, to pursue his promises for you. What it says in 1 Corinthians, it says, follow the way of love and eagerly desire spiritual gifts. God has spiritual gifts for all of us. So how do we do that? The first step is you have to just simply discover what your gift is. In a couple weeks, we're going to be starting, next Sunday, we're going to be starting to offer our Discover Steps classes, which walk you through what it means, what we believe, why we believe it. It's an online class that you'll be able to do. Sort of understand how we handle things and the way we operate, but some of our deeper beliefs, and help you, if you want to become a member, to be a member. And you go through the first class and then the second class, and once again, it's all going to be online. You'll be able to do it at home. Walks you through a spiritual gifts assessment. Now, am I saying this is the one-all, end-all, like, oh, whatever that spiritual gift says, that's what it is? No, I'm not. It is what it is. But if you've struggled and you've said, I don't know what it is, it'll help you figure out where God gave you more grace to do something. And it doesn't always just flow. Sometimes it takes a little while. Yesterday, we're watching our boys play football, and Linus, this is his third year playing football, and he's so good, and we love watching him. It's fun. He just gets it. This is Texas, my youngest. It's his first year playing football. And I don't know if you ever watched a 6 years old and under team play football, but it's like herding cats. Like there's nothing you can do. They're just insane. And And you'll have like a kid that does a big play here and there, and you have some kids that sort of get it. Most of them don't get it. And they're like, ah! Like you'll watch the whole team go, ah! And they like right on top of one kid, and they blow the whistle, and like 45 seconds later, you see somebody go like, ah! Jump on top of them, and they're like, stop it! We already called the whistle. Texas has been funny to watch this year because he's really good at practice, but at the games, he just didn't get it. It was so funny, man, because you'd watch a hike, and he'd be like, and he'd run over once they were all piled on, and he'd jump on. And we just laugh. We're like, he's learning. All right. And then something happened yesterday that was so fun to watch. Like, me and Sarah were just giggling. It was so fun to watch. Because it was like after the first quarter, something went click. And he went, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. And for the last 3 quarters of the game, he got 7 solo tackles in the backfield. Like, he's just like ripping through their O-line and finding their running back and like, and just bringing it out. We're like, wow. And he's getting up. And he's getting up. He's 6 years old. He's standing up. He's like, This little kid, he's just totally, and it was like he figured it out. He found it. He found what he was supposed to do. It's so much fun to watch. Little kids walk around like that. It's so fun. And I was like, but it was so cool to see him go, oh, I get it. And it was like, and it didn't stop. He kept doing it the rest of the game. And the coaches are on the sideline going, Texas, what got into you? He's screaming like, I don't get it. Other parents are looking at us going, what did you feed Texas this morning? And we're like, I don't know. A donut? And we're like, what's going on? And he just got it. And for some of you, God has something for you. And you've struggled and you've struggled. And we want to help you find a way to figure out what that gift is. And I'm not saying that it'll click immediately or you're going to find it doesn't mean that whatever you take on the test is going to be exactly what it is. But I want you to find it. Because there's no truer way to find the fulfillment God has for you than operating in the gifts that He gave you. If He created you to do, if before you were born, He had a plan for your life, which we know He did. He had a plan for you, then He created you for that plan. You will never be as fulfilled in this life as when you were operating in the plan that you were created for before you were formed in your mother's womb. You will never be as happy. You will never find fulfillment the same way until you're doing exactly what God created for you. If God had the thing for you to do first, then He created you, then the design, how He made it's revealed, and I believe this, that your design reveals your destiny. He designed you to do something, so that becomes your destiny. Psalms 139 says, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. So I want you to be able to look into, and this is what I believe. I believe, and I'll talk about this in the class if you take it, but I believe that you have your personality. We all have our personality. And then we have our spiritual giftings. And so we have this personality God gave us, our spiritual gifts, and then the thing that makes us passionate. And if we make the world's simplest connect the dots, that this Venn diagram of where your personality and your gifts and your passions align, that in the center of that is where you find fulfillment because God created you for that. He designed you to do something. Every one of you. And here's the deal. If you're older, it's not past you. You still have a design and a destiny today. If you're young, you're looking at the life and going, I'm not too young to do it. No, you have a design and a destiny today. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till you learn more or you become better. The same way that you don't have to get cleaned up to get saved by Jesus. You don't take a shower so you can take a shower. You take a shower to clean yourself off. And you don't wait till you've learned everything to start doing the thing. You start doing it. God created you on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose. He made you the way you are. So once you are sanctified, once you are delivered, once you know God, once you find freedom, it's time for you to discover the redemption that he has for you, the restoration that he has for you. It is time for you to embrace your design. The secret of this is simple. You have to get closer to the one who designed you. Ephesians 1 says it's in Christ that we find out who we are and what we are living for. The closer you are to him, the easier it is to find out who you are and what you were created to do. Long before we first heard of Christ and got our hopes up, he had his eyes on us, had designs for us, on us for glorious living, part of the overall purpose he's working out in everything and everyone. Colossians 1:16 says, for everything, absolutely everything, above and below, visible and invisible, everything got started in him and finds its purpose in him. If you want to know what God created you to do, if you don't want to just know God, if you want to just know God and that's where you want to stop right there and leave all the rest of the promises on the table, we love you. Please keep coming back to church. Hopefully I can change your mind. But if you want to know God, find freedom, and then discover your purpose so that you can find fulfillment, it only happens when you get close to God. Everything started in him, and that's where you find it. The purpose that he created for you. That's why you're in a great place to find fulfillment. It's at church so that you can get close to Jesus and understand who he is and what he has for you. So I want you to discover your gift, then I want you to develop your gift. I want you to develop the gift. It's not enough to just sort of go, okay, this is my gifting, and then you don't develop it. I remember, there was a guy in our church growing up that is an incredible guitar player. He was a studio musician up in Nashville. He plays on a bunch of big albums you've heard and listened to on the radio. A really great guy. His name's Mike Payne. One of the best guitar players I've ever seen personally. And he was in the youth group. He was only in high school. And he was unbelievable. And we became buddies. And I was like, I want to learn how to play guitar. And so my parents bought me a guitar for Christmas that year. My first guitar. And it looked cool. But I never learned how to play it. Just didn't. I learned like 2 chords. And it was like, this is hard. And I didn't get lessons. And it just sort of sat there for years and years. And it wasn't until years later we moved from Illinois to Florida, and I was into rock and roll music and rock and roll bands, and I met these guys at a concert. I met them at a bunch of concerts. We would see each other at these rock and roll concerts, and one day they were like, we're starting a band. Do you know anybody who plays bass? And I had an electric guitar and not a bass guitar, which if you don't know, what I play is a regular guitar, and back there Nick plays the 4 strings, the bass. And they were like, you know, buddy? And I was like, I can play bass, which was, you shouldn't lie. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, all right, we're going to practice tomorrow. I said, all right, I'll be there. And the next morning I got up and I grabbed my guitar and I went down to 6-string music. It's not there anymore. It was down on South Florida Avenue, and I traded that guitar for a bass. I had never held a bass. And I show up at their practice with a guitar amplifier and a bass guitar, not a bass amplifier. And they're like, and I'm like, and I'm just sort of figuring it out. And they realized it took them 12 and a half seconds to know that this kid doesn't play bass. But then they said, okay, now you hit this. This is where you fret. This is where you do it. And I spent the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks just playing bass constantly. And then we played our first concert. And over the course of the next few years, I played bass all around the world in different bands, toured, played in front of thousands, had a blast. And during that time, I decided it was time to learn guitar. So I started teaching myself how to play guitar. That gift was there, but it wasn't useful until I developed it. And some of you guys have gifts that God gave you, spiritual gifts that are incredible, but it won't be useful until you develop it, until you say, I'm going to utilize this in a different way than I expected. We build the church around the gifts of people. That's the way our church is built. Remember grace, the charis? It's a divine enablement. That's what I said. That God gave you the gift to do something, the divine ability to do something. Listen to what it says in Ephesians chapter 4. I'm closing right here. But to each one of us, grace, charis, has been given as Christ apportioned it. What's that? To each one of you, a gift has been given. So Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, the teachers to equip his people for works of service. That's why we do the Discover Steps. That's why we want you to do that, is to help you find the process to go from understanding what your gift is to using it. Because until it's not just enough to know what your gift is, but if you want to find fulfillment, you got to use it. If I said, hey, here's your passions, here's your personality, here's your spiritual giftings, there's the Venn diagram, that's your gifting right there, and you go, yep, that's it, and then you walk away, you're never going to be fulfilled. It's not enough to know what it is, you got to use it. And you develop it by using your gift. That's the third thing. This is your purpose in life. 1 Peter says, God has given gifts to each of you from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Manage them well so that God's generosity can flow through you, so that you can be used to do something different. Here's the thing. When you do this, when you operate in the gift that God gave you, you are worshiping God because you're serving him. Hebrews 6 says this, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work, and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people will continue to help them. Church, hear me on this, and I'm going to close right here. You have a unique gift. But your unique gift that God gave you is wrapped up around this one thought. Your purpose that you were created for, in the most simplest terms, is to serve God by serving others. That's your purpose. The first shall be last, the last will be served first, right? This is what anybody that comes to me will be a servant to others. Jesus himself kneeled down and scrubbed the feet of his disciples because he wanted them to understand that to find fulfillment, to use the gifts that God gave you, requires you to serve other people. It's the whole point. The gifts he gave you are to serve others. To find fulfillment doing what he created you to do, to help others find him so that they can do what he created them to do too. It's why you're here. So there are 4 different types of people that are here today. Some of you are here and you're like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to be here. I'm ready to leave. I know I'm lost and I don't care. I love you. Thanks for being here. Those, truthfully, I'm so glad you're here today. And if I would love it if you came back and just listened more and just see. Some of you guys are here today and you've drifted away and you're not sure why or how. A lot of you are still stuck on cup number 2. You know you were saved, but you know you've walked away because you're just stuck in the sin of who you used to be. There are others of you that are here that are completely religious, but you're totally empty inside. You know the right words to say. You know the right times to clap, to raise your hand. You're good at the praying out loud for people, but you never know how to pray by yourself because you don't have any kind of real relationship that goes deeper than a Sunday morning. God just feels far away. And there's others of you that you know God, and you're ready for eternity. So I'm going to pray real quick. And if you're any of the first three, and you say, you know what, I want to give this a shot. I want to know God. I want to drink from the first cup that you talked about. I want to know who God is so that I can find freedom from who I am. And so that I can find fulfillment. I can start this journey. If that's you today, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I'm not even asking you guys to raise your hand today. If that's you today, I'm going to ask everybody in this room just to repeat after me. But if that's you, you just repeat after me and just mean it in all your heart. Say, dear Jesus, come into my heart. Forgive me of my sins. I am broken. I am messed up. I am not good. But I know that you are perfect. Your love for me is perfect. That you created me on purpose, for a purpose, to serve others. Come into my life. Forgive me of my sin. Be my Savior. I want to know you. Help me to find freedom from who I used to be. Help me to find fulfillment by discovering why you created me. Help me to figure out what my spiritual gifts are and develop them to change the world. Use me. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.